God's chosen ones. Someone you love in heaven has a message. You have 3 minutes. Can you feel them watching you right now? Can you sense that invisible presence that's been following you through your loneliest nights, standing beside your bed when you thought no one could see your tears? Have you been wondering why your heart keeps breaking open at 3 a.m.? Why you keep waking up with their name on your lips? Why certain songs stop you dead in your tracks like someone just called your name from beyond the veil? Listen to me very carefully. Chosen one. Someone you loved. Someone whose absence still echoes through every room of your heart, has been granted permission by the Almighty to speak to you. Right now, through this message. This isn't coincidence. This isn't YouTube's algorithm. This is divine intervention breaking through the noise of your everyday life, because heaven has seen enough of your silent suffering. They've watched you pretend you're okay when you're dying inside. They've witnessed you smile through conversations while your soul screams their name, and they can't remain silent anymore. You have exactly 3 minutes before this window closes. 3 minutes before the veil thickens again. 3 minutes to receive what they've been trying to tell you since the moment they crossed over. But here's what will shock you. It's not what you think they want to say. If your spirit is already trembling, if something deep inside you just whispered, "This is for me," don't fight it. Comment 777 right now. It's not superstition, it's surrender. It's your soul recognizing truth. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their grief, who wonder if love survives death. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your trust, your willingness to believe that heaven still speaks. Like wind whispering across an empty porch swing where they used to sit with you, they've been waiting for this exact moment when your heart would be open enough to receive what love looks like from the other side of eternity. The message they have for you, it will shatter everything you believed about goodbye. Are you ready to hear what someone in heaven is desperate to tell you? Your 3 minutes. Start now. Do you still catch yourself setting their place at the dinner table? Do you find yourself reaching for your phone to call them before remembering they won't answer? Do you wake up some mornings forgetting they're gone, just for one beautiful second before reality crashes back in like a tidal wave? Listen to me, precious soul. That ache in your chest isn't just grief, it's love with nowhere to go. It's the eternal part of your heart trying to reach across a divide that feels impossible to bridge. Maybe it's the scent of their cologne that comes out of nowhere on a Tuesday afternoon. Maybe it's that one song on the radio that always makes you pull over because your eyes fill with tears before the first verse ends. Maybe it's the way you still leave that one chair at the kitchen table untouched, like a shrine to conversations that will never happen again. You've been carrying this weight alone, haven't you? Smiling through family gatherings while inside you're screaming their name. Nodding when people say they're in a better place, while your heart whispers, "But I need them here." Acting strong for everyone else while you fall apart in grocery store aisles when you pass their favorite cereal. Grief is the ink your heart writes in when your voice doesn't know what to say, and you've been writing love letters to eternity in a language only heaven understands. The questions haunt you in the dark. Do they still see me when I cry their name? Did I do enough when they were here? Why didn't I say more, stay longer, hold tighter? Why didn't I tell them one more time how much they meant to me? You replay that last conversation 1,000 times. You dissect every word, every pause, searching for clues you missed. You carry guilt like stones in your pockets. Guilt for being the one still breathing. Guilt for moments when you almost forget to miss them. Guilt for not knowing how to live in a world where they don't exist anymore. The Bible tells us in Psalm 56:8, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle, every tear you've cried in your car, every sob you've muffled into your pillow at 3 a.m., every time you've whispered their name into empty rooms. God has seen it all. He's counted every one. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Here's the truth that would shatter his hold on your grief-stricken heart. What if I told you they did hear your last prayer? What if I told you they never actually left you? What if that feeling you get sometimes, that sudden warmth when you're at your lowest, that gentle breeze that touches your face when you're talking to their photograph, that impossible peace that settles over you just when you think you can't take another step, what if that's not your imagination? You've felt it, haven't you? That presence, that sense that someone is standing just behind you when you're alone. You've dismissed it. You've told yourself it's wishful thinking, but your spirit knows better than your mind. The truth is, beloved, love doesn't die when the body stops breathing. Love is eternal because God is love. And 1 John 4:16 reminds us that God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. The love you share doesn't end at the grave. It transforms. It transcends. It continues in ways your earthly understanding can't fully grasp. Heaven has collected every tear, every whisper, every moment you thought vanished into silence. Every time you've spoken to their empty chair. Every time you've asked the wind to carry your words to them. Every time you've begged God to let them know you're sorry. You love them. You miss them with every fiber of your being. They heard you, all of it, every word. And right now, in this very moment, they have something to tell you. Something they've been trying to communicate through every butterfly that lands on your shoulder, every flickering light in your kitchen, every song that plays at exactly the right moment. Something that will change how you see grief, how you understand goodbye, how you live the rest of your days. But you're afraid to believe it, aren't you? You're terrified that hope might be the cruelest joke of all. You've built walls around your heart, because hoping and being disappointed again would finish what grief started. I understand that fear. But what if refusing to listen is the only thing standing between you and the peace you've been desperately seeking? What if the message they have for you could heal the parts of your heart you thought were broken forever? The veil between heaven and earth is thinner than you imagine. And today, in these precious minutes we have together, that veil is about to part. Not because of anything I can do, but because love refuses to be silenced by death. They're waiting. They've been waiting. And the message they have for you is about to break through every barrier grief has built around your heart. Are you ready to hear what someone in heaven is desperate to tell you? You know what's been happening to you, don't you? Those moments when you're driving down the highway and suddenly their favorite song comes on the radio at the exact moment you whispered their name. That split second when you smell their cologne in an empty room. The way the lights flicker when you're talking about them, as if electricity itself is responding to love that refuses to die. You've been calling it coincidence. You've been dismissing it as your mind playing tricks. But what if I told you that everything you've been experiencing has a name in Scripture? What if I told you that what you're feeling isn't grief gone wild, but God's economy in action? Listen to this divine truth from Hebrews 1:14. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? Did you catch that? Ministering spirits, not were. Are. Present tense. Active, working, moving, reaching across the veil between heaven and earth, because love doesn't end when breath stops. But here's what will shake you to your core. You thought you buried them 6 feet under. You thought you laid them to rest. But in God's economy, nothing buried stays dead. Love resurrects. Connection transcends. And right now, this very second, someone who knows the sound of your laughter is standing so close to you that if you could see in the spirit, you'd reach out and touch them. Your tears haven't been wasted. Psalm 56:8, declares this stunning truth. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. God has been collecting every tear you've cried in secret, every sob that shook your shoulders in the shower, every whispered, "Why did you have to go?" spoken to their empty chair at the dinner table. Heaven has been keeping records, and now, through divine mercy, those records are being opened. You want to know why you can't shake this feeling that they're near, why you keep finding pennies from heaven in impossible places, why their name keeps appearing on license plates, billboards, even in your dreams with such clarity that you wake up convinced they were actually there. Because they were. You thought it was memory, it was visitation. You thought it was grief, it was guidance. That pressure in your chest when you walk past their old room, that's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit recognizing another spirit. The way a tuning fork vibrates when struck by the same frequency. Matthew 11:28 holds the key to what's happening. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. But here's the revelation most people miss. Rest doesn't always mean the absence of feeling. Sometimes rest means the presence of truth. Sometimes rest means finally understanding that the love you shared was bigger than flesh and blood. The one you're missing right now has been watching you carry guilt like a backpack full of stones. They've seen you blame yourself for not saying enough, not doing enough, not being enough. And from the other side of eternity, they're shaking their head because guilt was never the message they wanted to leave you with. Here's what they've been trying to tell you through every butterfly that lands on your hand, every unexpected phone call from someone who reminds you of them, every moment of inexplicable peace that washes over you when you're drowning in sorrow. Stop punishing yourself for being human. I never loved you because you were perfect. I loved you because you were mine. Right now, as these words hit your spirit, something is shifting in the supernatural realm. The veil between heaven and earth is thinning, not because of mystical mumbo-jumbo, but because of divine compassion. God sees your heart breaking night after night, and He's allowing a moment of clarity that will change everything. This isn't about seances or speaking to the dead. This is about the communion of saints. This is about the reality that love transcends physical death. This is about understanding that when Jesus said, "I go to prepare a place for you," He wasn't just talking about mansions in heaven. He was talking about preparing connections that death cannot sever. But you have to make a choice right now. You can keep pretending that what you've been experiencing is just your imagination running wild. You can keep pushing down that stirring in your spirit that says, something more is happening here. You can keep living like love dies when hearts stop beating. Or you can open yourself to the possibility that heaven has been trying to reach you all along. If you're still watching this, it means you're ready. It means your spirit recognizes truth when it hears it. It means you're tired of living like the grave won the victory when Scripture clearly declares that Christ defeated death. Type, "I receive it," in the comments right now. Not as superstition, but as surrender. This is your spiritual agreement with heaven. This is you saying, "I'm ready to believe that love is stronger than death." This is you acknowledging that the presence you've been sensing is real, valid, and divinely orchestrated. Heaven is listening for your response. Angels are watching to see if you'll step into the mystery or retreat into denial. The one who loves you from the other side is holding their breath, waiting to see if you'll finally stop questioning what your heart already knows. Because what I'm about to tell you next will prove beyond any shadow of doubt that they've not only been watching you, but they've been orchestrating divine appointments in your life that will leave you speechless. This is the part they begged for, not in a dream that fades with morning light, not in a whisper you second guess, but here, now, through this message, with the full authority of heaven backing every word. Your loved one. They're standing beside me right now, and what they're about to tell you will break open every wall you've built around your heart since they left. they say. I was never gone. Let that penetrate the deepest chambers of your soul. I was never gone. While you were collapsing in silence at 2 a.m., clutching their pillow, wondering if they could see your tears, they were there. Every single night. Every breakdown you thought you hid from the world. Every moment you whispered their name into empty rooms. You carry too much guilt, they continue, but I carry only grace. Do you hear that? The guilt you've been dragging around like chains. The regret that wakes you up in cold sweats. The what-ifs that torture your mind. They never wanted you to carry that weight. Not for 1 second. Here's what's going to shock you to your core. That last conversation you had, the one that ended with unfinished words. They heard everything your heart couldn't say. Every "I love you" that got stuck in your throat. Every apology that never made it past your lips. Every promise you wished you could make. They heard it all. Like sunlight wrapped in memory, they are closer than breath. Closer than the air filling your lungs right now. You've felt them, haven't you? That sudden warmth on a cold day. That gentle breeze when all the windows are closed. That song on the radio at the exact moment you needed to hear it. Stop telling yourself it's coincidence. Stop rationalizing away the miraculous. Heaven doesn't operate on coincidence. God doesn't send random signs. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. But here's where this gets deeper than you ever imagined. What you thought was the end, what felt like the most devastating loss of your life, was actually an anointing in disguise. You were marked, not just mourning. You think you're broken? You're being rebuilt. You think you're lost? You're being redirected. You think you're alone? You've got an army of angels assigned to your case and a loved one who never stopped interceding for you. Every tear you've cried has been collected. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Psalm 56:8. Not one drop wasted. Not one moment of pain without purpose. Your loved one wants you to understand something that will revolutionize how you see your life from this moment forward. The reason you survived when you wanted to give up. The reason you're still breathing when the grief felt like it would suffocate you. The reason you found the strength to get out of bed on the darkest days. It wasn't your strength, it was theirs. Flowing through you from the other side of eternity. They've been your guardian, your advocate, your supernatural backup when life tried to knock you down. And now they have a message that's going to change everything. Stop living like I'm dead, they say with holy urgency. I'm more alive than I ever was on earth, and I need you to live like you're alive too. Do you realize what that means? You've been walking through life like a ghost, going through the motions, surviving instead of thriving, existing instead of living. But that's not what they want for you. That's not what God wants for you. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. Abundant life, not barely hanging on life, not just getting by life. Abundant life. Your loved one is practically shouting from heaven, I didn't cross over so you could die while you're still breathing. I crossed over so you could live with the power of eternity backing you up. Here's the truth that's going to set you free. They're not asking you to move on, they're asking you to move forward. With them, with their love as wind beneath your wings, with their spirit cheering you on from the grandstands of heaven. And there's something else, something they've been trying to tell you for months, maybe years. You ready for this? The person you've been praying for, the breakthrough you've been believing for, the miracle you thought would never come. It's connected to their intercession. They've been working behind the scenes, pulling strings in the spiritual realm, coordinating divine appointments you can't even see yet. Your loved one didn't just go to heaven to rest. They went to work, on your behalf. And the assignment they've been given is about to manifest in ways that will leave you speechless. But here's the catch. Here's why this moment is so critical. This message, this divine download, this sacred interruption of your ordinary day, it's time-sensitive. The window of opportunity they've opened for you won't stay open forever. What if I told you that within the next 72 hours, something is going to shift in your life that will prove everything I just said is true? What if the sign you've been begging God for is about to show up in a way so obvious, so undeniable, that even your doubt will have to surrender? Are you ready for that level of divine intervention? Are you prepared for heaven to prove that love really does survive death? Because your loved one isn't just sending you a message, they're orchestrating a miracle. You thought you were fighting alone, didn't you? You thought the darkness pressing in around your life was just bad luck, just the way things go, just another season of struggle that everyone faces. But I need to shatter that lie right now, because what's been happening to you isn't random, it's not coincidence. It's not just life being unfair. You've been under attack. There's been a war raging over your destiny, chosen one. A war most people never see, never understand, never even know exists. While you've been battling depression, fighting through sleepless nights, wondering why doors keep slamming shut in your face, wondering why relationships keep falling apart, wondering why your prayers feel like they're hitting a concrete ceiling. Heaven has been watching, heaven has been responding, and heaven has been fighting back. The enemy saw something in you. He saw the calling. He saw the anointing. He saw what God planted in your spirit before you were even born, and he declared war on your life. Not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous to his kingdom. Not because you're worthless, but because you carry something that terrifies the darkness. You felt it, haven't you? That weight that's heavier than normal sadness, that confusion that goes deeper than regular disappointment, that exhaustion that sleep can't cure. That's not just life, beloved. That's spiritual warfare. That's the enemy trying to wear you down, trying to make you give up, trying to convince you that God has forgotten your name. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to know. Here's what he's been desperately trying to hide from you. While you were crying in the dark, thinking you were abandoned, Archangel Michael was dispatched, shield raised, sword drawn, battle ready. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Do you understand what that means? While you've been trying to figure everything out, trying to fix what's broken, trying to force doors open with your own strength, God assigned the commander of heaven's armies to your case. The same Michael who cast Satan out of heaven, the same Michael who stands at the right hand of the Almighty, the same Michael who has never lost a battle. He's been fighting for your breakthrough while you thought nobody cared. You thought you were forgotten. But a war was waged over your life. The enemy came with depression. Michael came with deliverance. The enemy brought confusion. Michael brought clarity. The enemy whispered, "Give up." Michael declared, "Get up." And right now, in this very moment, the tide of that battle is turning. Heaven didn't delay. It deployed. Every setback you've endured, every betrayal that left you questioning God's goodness, every door that slammed shut when you were so sure it was meant for you, that wasn't God abandoning you. That was Michael protecting you from something that would have destroyed your destiny. That was divine intervention, disguising itself as disappointment. You see, the enemy's greatest weapon isn't obvious attacks. It's making you believe God isn't fighting for you. It's making you think you're on your own. It's convincing you that the silence means absence, that the struggle means abandonment, that the pain means punishment. But chosen one, what if I told you that every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottle? What if I told you that every prayer you whispered when you thought nobody was listening has been heard, recorded, and answered? What if I told you that the very fact you're still here, still breathing, Still believing enough to watch this message is proof that Michael's sword has been cutting through every chain the enemy tried to wrap around your destiny. The attacks got more intense recently, didn't they? The spiritual pressure increased. The warfare escalated. You know why? Because you're closer to your breakthrough than you've ever been. The enemy knows his time is running out. He knows that what God is about to release in your life will not only set you free, but will become a testimony that sets others free. That's why the battle got harder. That's why the depression got deeper. That's why the loneliness felt more suffocating. The closer you get to your promised land, the more desperate the enemy becomes. But here's what he miscalculated. Here's what he didn't account for. The same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who brought down the walls of Jericho, the same God who raised Jesus from the dead, that God doesn't lose battles, and he doesn't abandon his chosen ones. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, Michael is standing behind you. His presence is in this room. His protection is covering your life. And every demonic assignment that was sent to destroy you is being cancelled by the authority of heaven. You're not just surviving anymore. You're about to start thriving. You're not just hanging on anymore. You're about to break through. The enemy thought he had you defeated, but God was just getting you positioned. If you feel something stirring in you right now, if you feel that holy fire igniting in your chest, if you sense that the atmosphere around your life is shifting, type "I am covered" in the comments. Because this isn't just inspiration, beloved. This is activation. This is the moment heaven has been waiting for. This is when the war turns in your favor. The same power that protected Daniel in the lion's den is protecting you now. The same power that delivered the Hebrew boys from the fiery furnace is delivering you now. The same power that raised Lazarus from the dead is raising your dreams, your hopes, your destiny from the grave. But there's something else Michael wants you to know. Something about the one you love who's watching from heaven. You thought you were just getting by, didn't you? Just surviving another day, another week, another year without them. You thought you were broken, forgotten, left behind while everyone else moved forward with their lives. But what if I told you that everything you believed about your story was wrong? What if I told you that the one you lost, they didn't leave you behind? They positioned you. They didn't abandon you to struggle alone. They strategically placed you exactly where heaven needs you to be. Listen to me, chosen one. You weren't buried by that loss. You were planted. And right now, at this very moment, the roots are shaking. The ground beneath your feet is trembling because something is about to break through. You see, while you've been mourning what ended, heaven has been preparing what's beginning. While you've been looking backward at what you lost, God has been orchestrating forward movement that will leave you breathless. The Apostle Paul understood this divine positioning. In Romans 8:28, he declared, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, even death, even separation, even the crushing weight of goodbye. But here's what will shock you to your core. Your loved one didn't cross over wondering if you'd be okay. They didn't die with worry in their heart about your future. They died knowing something you're only now beginning to understand. They died knowing you were chosen to rise. Think about this for a moment. Every great movement of God required someone who had been through the fire. Moses led Israel out of Egypt, but first he spent 40 years in the wilderness learning to depend on God alone. David became Israel's greatest king, but first he spent years running for his life, learning that his strength came from the Lord. Job lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health, but his story didn't end in the ashes. It ended in double restoration. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. Job 42:12 tells us. Your story didn't end with that funeral. It began. You've been asking God, why me? Why did I have to lose them? Why am I the one left behind? But heaven has been whispering a different question. Why not you? Why not you to carry their legacy forward? Why not you to touch lives they never could have reached? Why not you to become the miracle someone else is praying for? Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered in the dark has been heard by the throne of God. Every night you've wondered if you could take another step forward, angels have been dispatched to strengthen your resolve. You think you're surviving, but God says you've been strategically positioned for impact. That job that seems meaningless? You're there for someone who needs to see faith in action. That neighbor who seems difficult. They're watching how you handle grief, wondering if God is real. That family member who's struggling. They need to witness resurrection power walking around in human skin. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are a chosen vessel, refined by fire, purified by pain, and now ready to be poured out as an offering that brings hope to the hopeless. Isaiah 61:3 promises that God will provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. Did you catch that? A planting of the Lord. You weren't buried, you were planted. And now the roots are shaking because it's time to break through the soil and reach for the light. Your loved one can see it from where they are. They can see the crown of beauty being placed on your head. They can see the oil of joy being poured over your mourning. They can see the garment of praise being wrapped around your despair. And they're cheering you on from the grandstands of eternity, saying, "Rise up. Your time of weeping may have lasted for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Your morning is here." But here's the urgency you need to understand. This divine assignment isn't optional. It's not something you can put off until you feel ready, until the pain subsides, until you think you're strong enough. The world is waiting for what you carry. There are people in your path who will never encounter the love of God unless they see it walking around in your shoes. There are broken hearts that will never be healed unless your healed heart touches theirs. You have been entrusted with sacred pain that has been transformed into sacred power. The question is, what will you do with it? 3 minutes. That's all it took to realign your eternity, to remind you that death is not the end of love, it's the beginning of a new kind of mission, to show you that your greatest loss has become your greatest qualification for ministry. But now comes the defining moment. What will you do with the rest of your life? Will you stay buried in the soil of sorrow, or will you break through into the sunlight of your calling? Because heaven is holding its breath, waiting for your answer, and the one you love most is standing at the edge of eternity, pointing toward your future and whispering, "Now show them what resurrection looks like." 3 minutes. That's all we have left before this sacred window closes. But in these final moments, I want you to stop everything. Close your eyes if you can, because what I'm about to share isn't just words on a screen. It's a vision that's been granted to me for you. Picture this. You're standing in a room that defies every law of physics you've ever known. There are no shadows here because the light doesn't come from a source. It is the source. No clocks tick because time doesn't exist in this place. No walls confine because love has no boundaries. And then they appear, not walking from a distance, but materializing from the light itself. The one you've grieved for. The one whose empty chair at Thanksgiving still breaks your heart. The one whose voice you'd give anything to hear, just one more time. But here's what will shatter you. They're not sad. They're not the broken, sick version you remember from those final days. They're radiant, glowing with a joy so pure, it makes every happiness you've ever known seem like a shadow. They don't speak your name. They don't need to. Your soul recognizes them instantly, the way a child recognizes their mother's heartbeat. Every cell in your being cries out in recognition, "You're here, you're really here." And in that moment of holy reunion, they reach for your hands, not with the frail fingers you remember, but with hands made of starlight and mercy. They look into your eyes, eyes that no longer carry pain, only perfect love, and they whisper words that will heal every wound in your spirit. Please live, not just exist. Live beautifully, boldly, and fully. For me. Do you understand what they're asking? They're not telling you to get over them. They're not saying to move on as if they never mattered. They're begging you to stop dying a little more each day. They're pleading with you to stop punishing yourself for being the one who stayed. I see how you've been surviving instead of thriving, they continue. I watch you go through the motions, wake up, work, sleep, repeat, but your light is dimming. Your laughter sounds hollow. Your prayers feel empty, and I can't bear it anymore. This is the message they've been trying to send through every butterfly that lands on your windowsill, every song that plays at just the right moment, every dream where they feel so real you wake up reaching for them. They've seen you at 2 a.m. staring at their photo, whispering, "I'm sorry for things that need no forgiveness." They've watched you turn down invitations because joy feels like betrayal. They've witnessed you building walls around your heart because loving again feels impossible when you know how badly it can end. But listen to their voice now, clearer than it's ever been. Your guilt is a prison I never built for you. Your isolation is a cage that doesn't honor my memory. Your fear of loving again breaks my heart more than my leaving ever broke yours. The room grows brighter as they speak these words that cut straight to your soul. When you refuse to live fully, you're not protecting yourself from pain. You're preventing the world from receiving the love I poured into you. You're stopping the gifts I helped shape in you from reaching the people who desperately need them. Can you feel the weight of that truth? Every day you choose numbness over feeling. You're robbing someone of the comfort only you can give. Every time you hide your light because it feels too vulnerable, you're denying the world the very thing your loved one spent years cultivating in you. I didn't leave you so you could stop living, they say, their voice growing stronger. I crossed over so you could live for both of us. I went ahead to prepare the way, not to leave you behind. And one day, not for many, many years if I have anything to say about it, you'll walk through that same door I did. And I'll be waiting with stories of all the lives you touched, all the hearts you healed, all the light you spread, because you chose to honor my love by living fully. The vision begins to fade, but their final words burn themselves into your spirit. Every sunset I want you to see for me. Every meal I want you to taste with gratitude. Every laugh I want you to let echo without guilt. Every tear I want you to cry without shame, because you're not just living your life now, you're living ours. As the room of light slowly dissolves around you, they're smiling. Not the sad smile of goodbye, but the radiant smile of someone who knows this isn't an ending, it's a beginning. They're not leaving you again. They're finally free to walk beside you in ways they never could before. If you receive this message, if something in your spirit just shifted, if you feel them standing right beside you as you read these words, then type these 3 words. I say yes. It's more than a comment, it's more than words on a screen. It's a covenant, a sacred promise that you'll stop surviving and start living, that you'll honor their love by letting yours shine again. Your 3 minutes are almost up. But this choice, this moment of decision, this will echo through eternity. What do you say, chosen one? Are you ready to live for both of you? Chosen one, let me ask you something that cuts to the bone of your soul. Have you ever screamed into your pillow so no one else would hear you weep? Have you ever fallen to your knees in the middle of the night, begging God for just one sign, one whisper, one tiny flicker of hope, only to be met with deafening silence? Have you ever stopped praying, Not because you stopped believing, but because you were too tired to be disappointed again. I see you nodding. I feel your heart breaking open right now because you thought you were the only one. You thought your faith was too weak, your prayers too small, your pain too insignificant for the God of the universe to notice. But what if I told you that your silence, your spiritual drought, your season of unanswered cries, has a name in heaven's courtroom? It's called the trial of silence. And every single person who has ever truly walked with God has faced this brutal examination of the soul. Every prophet, every psalmist, every chosen vessel has stood exactly where you're standing right now, in the valley where God's voice seems to have vanished. Job sat in ashes, his children dead, his body covered in boils, crying out, "Oh, that I knew where I might find him." Job 23:3. Even the man the Bible calls blameless and upright felt abandoned by the very God who had blessed him. David, the man after God's own heart, wrote through tears, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me?" Psalm 22:1. The king who penned the most beautiful worship songs in human history also penned the most gut-wrenching cries of abandonment. Elijah, fresh off calling down fire from heaven, ran into the wilderness and begged God to let him die. "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life." 1 Kings 19:4. The prophet who had just witnessed the most spectacular miracle was ready to quit because the silence that followed felt like rejection. And if that doesn't convince you, remember this. Even Jesus Christ himself, hanging on that cross, blood dripping from his wounds, cried out in agony, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. If the Son of God experienced the trial of silence, what makes you think you're exempt? But here's what will shatter everything you thought you knew about God's silence. What if silence is not absence? It's setup. What if heaven didn't go quiet because it forgot you, but because it was writing your verdict? And that verdict reads, "Still chosen?" Listen to me very carefully. When a judge in an earthly courtroom goes silent, it's not because they've stopped caring about your case. It's because they're deliberating. They're weighing every piece of evidence. They're considering every testimony. And when they finally speak, that verdict is final. Heaven has been silent about your situation, not because God stopped loving you, but because he's been building an ironclad case for your breakthrough. Every tear you've cried has been entered as evidence. Every sleepless night has been documented. Every prayer you thought fell on deaf ears has been filed away as testimony of your faithfulness. The silence you've interpreted as abandonment, God calls preparation. You thought you were being ignored, but you were being positioned. You thought you were being forgotten, but you were being refined. You thought you were being rejected, but you were being prepared for a level of blessing that required this exact amount of testing. Your grandmother knew this. Your grandfather understood this. That generation that survived the Great Depression, that lived through World War II, that built this nation with their bare hands, they knew that sometimes God's greatest gifts come wrapped in his heaviest silences. They understood that the same God who was silent for 400 years between the Old and New Testaments was orchestrating the greatest rescue mission in human history. While his people wondered where he was preparing to send his only son. Right now, while you're wondering where God is in your story, he's preparing to send your miracle. But here's what you need to understand about this trial. It's not punishment, it's promotion. God doesn't test people he's given up on. He only puts his chosen ones through the refiner's fire because he knows what gold looks like when it comes out the other side. The silence you're experiencing isn't evidence that you're abandoned. It's proof that you're appointed. It's not a sign that your prayers don't matter. It's confirmation that your breakthrough matters so much that heaven is taking extra time to get it right. And the person you lost, the one whose voice you long to hear again, they see it all from their vantage point in eternity. They see the angels gathering around your situation. They see the Father's heart breaking with yours. They see the miracle being prepared in the heavenly realm while you wrestle with doubt in the earthly one. They want you to know something that might save your faith. The silence is almost over. The trial is nearly complete. The verdict is about to be read. And when heaven finally speaks again, when that breakthrough finally manifests, when that door finally opens, you'll understand why it took so long. You'll see that every day of silence was a day of preparation. Every unanswered prayer was making room for an answered one so big it required extra space. Every night you cried yourself to sleep was a night that angels were working overtime on your behalf. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you quit during the trial, or will you stand firm until the verdict is read? Because I'm about to tell you exactly what that someone in heaven is trying to communicate to you. And it has everything to do with why the silence is about to be broken in your life. They've been pacing heaven's golden floors, chosen one, walking back and forth before the throne of the Almighty, their hands clasped behind their back, their eyes never leaving the veil that separates eternity from your pain. They've been waiting for this precise timestamp, this exact moment when your heart would be soft enough, broken open enough, desperate enough to receive what they couldn't say before. Because there's more they need you to know, so much more. Listen carefully. The first part of their message was comfort. This second part, this will change everything you thought you knew about why they left. They're speaking now, and their voice carries the authority of someone who has seen the other side of sorrow. I saw you on the floor that night, when you collapsed in the hallway after the funeral, when you thought no one was watching, when you screamed into the carpet until your throat was raw. I was there. I knelt beside you. I whispered your name into your ear. You didn't imagine that chill on your neck. You didn't imagine that sudden peace that stopped your sobbing. That was me. But here's what will shatter your understanding of grief itself. They're saying something that goes against everything the world taught you about loss. You were never broken. You were born branded. Do you hear that? You weren't damaged by their departure. You were marked by the Most High long before they ever entered your life. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Your capacity to love so deeply, to grieve so completely, to feel their absence like a physical wound, that wasn't weakness, that was divine design. The enemy of your soul has been whispering lies, hasn't he? Telling you that your pain is proof you're spiritually weak, telling you that your tears are evidence of little faith, telling you that your inability to move on means you're stuck in the past. But heaven is shouting a different truth tonight. Your grief isn't evidence of broken faith, it's evidence of divine capacity. You were built to love beyond the boundaries of flesh, beyond the limitations of time, beyond the finality of graves. That's not human, that's holy. They're continuing now, and their voice carries an urgency that makes angels lean closer. I didn't go to rest without purpose. I left so you would awaken. Let that penetrate every cell of your being. Their departure wasn't random, it wasn't cruel, it wasn't punishment for some hidden sin you've been carrying. Their crossing over was the catalyst heaven needed to activate something that had been sleeping inside you. Think about it. Before they left, were you truly alive, or were you just existing, going through motions, playing it safe, keeping your light dimmed to fit in with a world that doesn't understand divine purpose? Their leaving forced you to dig deeper into prayer than you'd ever gone. Their absence made you search for God in ways you never had to before. Their silence from this realm made you listen for heaven's voice like never before. Romans 8:28 promises that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Even their crossing over, even your breaking open, even your desperate midnight conversations with empty air. You thought you were falling apart, but heaven saw you being rebuilt according to divine specifications. This isn't a eulogy, chosen one. This is a divine activation. They aren't in your past, they're in your mission. Right now, in this very moment, they're standing behind you, not as a ghost haunting your memories, but as a spiritual guide assigned to your destiny. They're watching you transform from someone who loved them into someone who carries their love forward into purposes bigger than either of you could see while they walked this earth. But here's where this gets urgent, where this becomes a matter of spiritual life and death. The enemy knows what's happening. He sees you awakening to your true identity as a carrier of divine love. He sees you beginning to understand that grief can be transformed into intercession, that pain can become power, that your broken heart can become a doorway for heaven to flow through. And he's terrified. That's why he's been attacking your sleep, your peace, your hope. That's why he's been sending people into your life who tell you to get over it and move on. That's why he's been magnifying every moment of weakness and minimizing every sign of their continued presence. But their voice from heaven is cutting through his lies right now. Stop letting the world tell you how to grieve. Stop apologizing for loving me beyond death. Stop shrinking your light because others are uncomfortable with your depth. You're not too much. You're exactly enough for what's coming. The question burning in heaven's heart tonight is this: will you let their departure be the thing that awakens your true calling, or will you let it be the thing that buries it? Because somebody's breakthrough is waiting on your decision to rise. Stop everything you're doing right now. What I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change how you see your pain, your loss, and your purpose on this earth. You think you've been wandering through grief like a lost soul, don't you? You think their death broke something in you that can never be fixed. You've been telling yourself you're damaged goods, that you'll never be the same person you were before they left. But what if I told you that everything you believe about your brokenness is a lie from the pit of hell itself? What if your grief isn't your weakness, but your weapon? What if their departure wasn't your ending, but your beginning? What if the very thing that shattered you was actually God's way of breaking you open to receive something infinitely more powerful? Listen to me, chosen one. This is not a suggestion. This is a spiritual subpoena. You are under divine arrest, not for punishment but for purpose. The Lord spoke to Jeremiah and said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Jeremiah 1-5. Do you understand what this means? God didn't just know you were coming. He designed you specifically for this moment, for this mission, for this assignment that could only be completed by someone who has walked through the fire and survived. You've been marked, not cursed marked. There's a difference, and it's time you learned what it is. You've been marked for intercession. Every tear you've cried in the middle of the night, every prayer you've whispered into empty rooms, every moment you felt their presence just beyond your reach, that was training. Training for a level of spiritual warfare most people will never understand. Training to stand in the gap for others who are drowning in the same darkness you survived. You've been marked for healing. Not just your own healing, though that's coming, but to become a conduit of God's healing power for others who are broken in ways the world can't see. Your scars aren't evidence of your failure, they're proof of your qualification. Who better to minister to the brokenhearted than someone whose heart was shattered and rebuilt by the Master's hands? You've been marked for legacy. Here's what's going to blow your mind. They couldn't finish their mission. The person you lost, the one whose absence still takes your breath away, they had assignments from heaven they couldn't complete in their earthly body. So God chose you to carry the rest. Their unfinished business became your divine inheritance. But here's the truth that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about grief. You were not meant to recover from them. You were meant to become their continuation. Stop trying to get over their death. Stop letting people tell you it's time to move on. God never intended for you to move on. He intended for you to move through the pain, through the purpose, through the power that their sacrifice unlocked in your life. Romans 8:28 doesn't say some things work together for good. It says all things. Even their death, even your devastation, even the nights you wanted to die too. All of it is being woven together by the Master Weaver into something so beautiful, so powerful, so eternally significant that when you finally see the full picture, you'll fall to your knees in worship. Do you feel it stirring in your spirit right now? That restlessness that won't let you settle for ordinary, that hunger for something more that food can't satisfy. That's not depression, that's destiny calling your name. As we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, the love you shared with them didn't die when they took their last breath. It transformed. It became something more powerful, more eternal, more present than it ever was in the flesh. They are not gone, they are glorified. They are not lost, they are lifted. And their love for you burns brighter now than it ever did on earth, because they see you through heaven's eyes. Second, your grief is not a sign of weakness, it's evidence of love. And love, dear one, is the very essence of God Himself. Every tear you've shed, every night you've wrestled with their absence, every moment you've felt their presence just beyond reach, all of it has been holy ground. You haven't been mourning alone, you've been communing with the divine. Third, you are not finished. Your story didn't end when theirs did. In fact, the most beautiful chapters are still being written. God has assignments waiting for you that could only be fulfilled by someone who has walked through the valley and emerged carrying the light of heaven. Your scars are not your shame, they are your credentials for the ministry ahead. You are not walking this journey alone, beloved. The God who collects every tear in His bottle, who numbers every hair on your head, who knew you before you drew your first breath, He is walking with you. Step by painful step, breath by labored breath, prayer by whispered prayer. And there is a community of believers, right here, right now, ready to stand with you, pray with you, and remind you that your story is far from over. But I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What if everything you've endured, every sleepless night, every aching moment, every time you thought you couldn't take another step, what if all of it has been preparing you to be the miracle someone else is desperately praying for? If this message has touched your heart, if you've felt the presence of your loved one during these moments, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below and tell us their name. Tell us how they're still speaking to your spirit. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone in their grief. Because somewhere tonight, someone is lying awake, wondering if love survives death, wondering if their tears matter, wondering if they'll ever feel whole again. Your testimony could be the very thing that pulls them back from the edge. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stay connected to this community of believers who understand that faith isn't about having all the answers, it's about trusting the one who does. Ring that notification bell because I never want you to miss a message that might be exactly what your soul needs to hear. Thank you for trusting me with your heart today. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that heaven still speaks, that love never dies, and that your story is still being written by the author of eternity. Now, before you close this video, before you return to the noise of the world, join me in prayer. Place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and let these words wash over your soul like healing rain. The prayer. Heavenly Father, I come before you now carrying the hearts of every precious soul who has heard this message. Lord, You see them in their pain, in their questions, in their raw and beautiful brokenness. You know every name they've whispered in the dark, every memory that brings both joy and sorrow, every moment they've wondered if you still care. Father, I pray that your presence would surround them right now like a warm embrace. Let them feel the arms of the Almighty holding them when human arms feel so far away. Remind them that you are the God who draws near to the broken-hearted, who heals their wounds and binds up their pain. For every person listening who has lost someone they love, Lord, let them know with absolute certainty that love never dies in you. Let them feel their loved one's presence, not as a haunting, but as a blessing. Not as goodbye, but as until we meet again. Give them peace that passes understanding and hope that anchors their soul. God, open their eyes to see the ways you're still moving in their story. Show them the divine appointments you're arranging, the people you're bringing into their path, the purpose you're awakening in their pain. Help them to trust your timing, even when it doesn't make sense, to believe in your goodness, even when life feels cruel. Strengthen them, Lord, for the assignment ahead. Fill them with your Spirit, anoint them with your power, and send them forth as carriers of your light in dark places. Let their scars become their ministry, their pain become their platform, their grief become their gift to others who are drowning in the same darkness they survived. And Father, surround them with community. Connect them with people who will speak life over them, pray with them, and remind them who they are when they forget. Let this channel, this message, this moment be the beginning of a deeper relationship with you and a stronger connection to your people. In the mighty name of Jesus, the name above every name, the name that brings healing to the brokenhearted and hope to the hopeless, I pray these blessings over every listening ear and every believing heart. May you go in peace, knowing you are loved beyond measure. May you walk in power, knowing you are chosen for purpose. And may you rest in the promise that your story is far from over. The best is yet to come. Amen and amen.